This is David.
I showed up.
He did show up, he's right here, and he will walk you through his pieces, tell you about what inspired him, tell you about his perspectives and exactly how they were done. And at the end of this, if you have questions, we will take them. So, David, it's yours.
So we begin at the beginning. So this is the first piece that Lois picked, and it's one of the few older pieces in the show. It's made on a very strange material. It's kind of a thick aluminum foil, and it comes up like a big smooth flat rolls, and once I finish painting on it, I take it and I do the crinkling and bending, and which give it an interesting 3D effect. So the stuff is not really flat, it's changeable. Every once in a while I come in and I move it around, and I poke it, and it's keep evolving and changing.
Right.
And this is a portrait of Franz Kafka, by the way, with the monkey on top of his head. The next few pieces are watercolor pieces that are based on my obsession with. I discovered the Biodiversity Library website. This site has more than, I think, 200,000 images, illustration, like from between like the 15th century to the 19th century. And I just love just going through the site and picking images of all kind of creatures, extinct or endangered, or just your regular basic pigs or monkeys. And they have wonderful illustrations there. And I started doing my own versions of some of the illustration, and then I sort of created sort of an imaginary art show with the biodiversity. This art show never existed, but only in, I guess, only in my head. And these are the images from this biodiversity gallery show. And the crowds, they are my friends, relatives. So it's the same series of evolved from in having the show inside a gallery, and now it's took it to the outside world, the outside environment, and now we have all those flying whales, sperm whales.
So what about this one?
This one is still part of the same series based on the biodiversity website. And, I love the image of especially of the sperm whales that I keep repeating and having them, the sperm whale in a bunch of my paintings, because it's such a magnificent, strange animals. And plus, in the biodiversity website, there's a bunch of illustration of hunting of the sperm whales, which is really fascinating. And so did my own version. I guess you'll see it later, some of the sperm whale hunting version. So this is, again, the sperm whale, in my case, in my painting, is flying, not really swimming, which is, I'm not sure why, but,
It makes it kind of fanciful.
but that's the way I see it. So floating in the air.
What about the costumes you were talking about, that particular costume?
The costumes are sort of my interpretation of the French, not French, but Soviet avant-garde from the early 20th century. Fashion designer like Popova that came up with really those beautiful designs, really abstract and colorful. And sort of I dressed my people with the Soviet fashion, you might call it, the Soviet avant-garde fashion. It just worked for me because I'm a big admirer of those artists. This is more of the biodiversity library. It's many times I just go to museums like the Getty and just take pictures of a crowd of people standing in front of paintings. And I go home to my studio and I just paint those people. And this is a case of somebody I've seen in the Getty standing in front of I think a Giacometti sculpture. But I changed it and I made it, and in my painting, she's standing in front of a couple of baboons, which again are part of this biodiversity library. Here's an example of what I talked earlier about some of the scene I've seen in the biodiversity library of whale hunting. And those illustrations, I was really fascinated with them, and I started doing my own version of some of them. And I combined it with my the portrait that I do of some acquaintances and friends, artists in their studios. So in this case, she's sitting in her studio, but the image behind her is the image that I painted. It's not her art. And the monkey, of course, is not her monkey. It wasn't in the studio. I just edited it. And again, it's part of those wonderful creatures that I've seen on the biodiversity library. This is another image of being in a gallery, and it's sort of open for interpretation. She's on the gallery floor, and there's somebody floating in the air in front of the painting, or part of the painting. And I was asked a couple of times, is that another person, or is that, the way I see it is just, it's the same one who's lying on the floor. It's just her, is she hallucinating or dreaming and seeing herself about 6 feet above the floor, which changed the whole perspective. This is a little piece that combined both traditional painting and some of my digital animation. And I always see stuff that, because I do digital art and I do traditional art, and I live in both worlds. Recently, I started doing a series of painting that combine both. So this piece is actual painting on a piece of wood and a piece of cardboard using watercolors and acrylic, but inside the box there is an actual iPhone that shows some of my digital art. Because I've seen a lot of digital art, and it's usually just shown as a computer screen in a gallery, which I find a little boring, and I was always looking for a way to combine both worlds in one piece of art. And this is another example of a traditional watercolor painting on one key, and then behind it there is a screen, and the screen is showing some of my digital animation. In this case, it shows some, this piece is called the Amazon Fires. So it deals with the, I guess it has this environmental subject here. The monkey is again in a gallery space, but behind it you can see the Amazon on fire. Which brings me to the next piece, which is another stuff that I've been experimenting with, is doing traditional art and adding augmented reality to the painting. So in this case, when you point the augmented reality, in this case, Art Vive, when you point it, the painting comes to life and and we have some animation that was created especially for this painting. And this, anybody can do that by downloading this free app and pointing it at the painting. This is one more from a series of artists in the studio. Some artists that I knew. And here is her image at her studio at night, standing on a chair, surrounded by those possibly imaginary creatures, or maybe they're real creatures, but that's her portrait of her in a studio at night. That's the same figure, the artist that I knew, this time outside her studio at night, and you can see the street view at night behind her. And this is the same artist again in her studio in front of one of her paintings, or in front of one of my paintings that has this creature that I started painting during the Corona lockdown, which sort of represent a cartoonish version of the coronavirus, I guess, that affects all of us. Here we have two sheeps, one yellow and one black. This is one of my older works, about 10 years ago, and the way I see it, it's and the sheep has this red stain, which is a way shepherds mark their flocks just to show ownership, but it opens for another interpretation. It can be a stain of blood, and the sheep is very symbolic of the Middle East and the conflict there. So some look at it, the sheep, and see a cute creature, and some see the whole political, complicated history of the Middle East by looking at one sheep. This is from another series of painting, black and white. It was influenced by early 20th century German photographer August Sender that did a bunch of beautiful artwork. He was photographing German professional class doing photos of butchers, firefighters, lawyers, and I really love this work, and this is sort of a tribute to his photographs. This is again from the same series of Studio at Night with the same artist. This time playing with those little demons, little Corona demons, you might say, standing on a chair. These three big panels with about 36 different images. It has a funny story. Originally, I started doing it as placemats, and at one point, I realized that it might not be proper to spill pasta sauce and either olive oil on top of it. So I actually ended up gluing it on the canvas and hung it on the wall. I think it's a good representation of, it almost looked like most of my sketchbook. I am an obsessive doodler, and I have I think hundreds of sketchbooks that I just fill. I've been doing it since I was a child, and this is just another version of my sketchbook, basically a bigger version of what I do all day and I do every day with my little sketchbooks and watercolors. In this case, it was done, because it's done on this rubbery, foamy stuff, I use Sharpies and watercolors. Oh, yeah. Here we come to a very recent work, again, from the Corona isolation, stay-at-home period. At one point I found, I realized that I ran out of art materials, and I started using pieces of cardboard. In this case, this is the inside of cereal boxes. So all these pieces are done basically are cut out from cereal boxes. At one point, I realized I started using the whole box, and I thought it gives it like an extra third dimension. And all these pieces here, there's the 6 pieces that have augmented reality embedded in them. So I think that adds another layer to the painting. So when you point the application, when you point your phone at the painting, it gives you a little bit more. And here's an example. And the neat thing about it that I can manipulate it from far away. So this one has sound too. And it might look this way today, but you come in a couple of days from now, and I might change the whole thing. So I can control it from behind the scene, which is really interesting. So this piece is actually alive and evolving. And these are all, again, more
Is that the one
downloads.
with the umbrellas going down?
Yeah, we showed it. So these are actual cereal boxes, and you can figure out what I like. And, it's, vanilla almond and organic raisin bran. This is the second floor gallery, and here we have really smaller work, but I think much more intimate work. It's the stuff that I wasn't even planning on showing. It seems like Lois came to my studio and started ripping pages from my sketchbooks. And I said, okay, let's frame this one, and let's frame the other one. But this will give you a view of what I really do all the time, just doing little drawing and painting in my sketchbooks. And not all of them, but some of them are just pages from my sketchbooks. So we have the artist in the studio again, somebody, and with one of the creatures from the Biodiversity Gallery. And in the background, for some reason, there is an actual painting of one of my favorite artists, Beckmann, that is hanging on the wall. That's one of my fantasies, I guess, to own one of his paintings. I made my own versions. This is again an artist in the studio, but only the lower part of the body. And this is actually based on a photograph that I saw of Alex Katz. That, I just found the image really interesting and fascinating. And he has no shoes in the painting, so instead of I replaced the painting behind him with a painting of shoes, which is not his painting, it's my painting, just because I thought it was really perfect. Paint his missing shoes. And we're back to the series of the Biodiversity Library. Here, artists with, again, that imaginary show and visitor to the galleries are in front of those pieces of art that are based on the Biodiversity Library. And this is one of the images that I was talking about earlier from a hunting scene of a sperm whale. It's very common in the Biodiversity Library, and I always find it fascinating. So I created my own version, and it looks like it was sort of like some sort of a tourist attraction at that time, I guess somewhere around the 18th century. And I just created my own version, which is slightly tilted. And now we're moving to a bunch of painting of artists in the studios, mostly people that I knew, friends and acquaintances, in front of my version of their paintings, or just standing in front of a wall in the studio. Sort of humorous. It has a big painting behind her of Mauricio Catalan contemporary artist. Here he is again, standing on top of a horse with his yellow umbrella.
We actually carry some plates like that.
Oh, you?
They're represented by.
Again, an artist in front of his work. And there's another artist in a studio from a broken robot sculpture. Another artist friend in her studio. And she's standing in front of her painting too. This is one of my artist friends combined with that little or big creature that represent the current plague epidemic. And it's called The Desire to Fly. And as you can see those things taking off, and she has desire to join them and float above the ground. Again, canceling gravity, just like I think most of us want to do every once in a while. This is a couple standing in front of, again, imaginary painting by Hayaho. A lot of those bloody carcasses hanging. He was fascinated with them. He's not the only artist who was fascinated with them. Francis Bacon used to do that. Rembrandt used to do that. And, so they're standing in front of Hayaho painting and admiring it. This is a portrait of Alberto Giacometti with a friend and a blind horse. I wonder for how long they can hold this pose. This is from a series that I've done a while ago of mostly books on fires, and I have all kind of horrific images that came to mind. The burning of books in the 1930s that happened in Germany. The Buddhist priests setting themselves on fire during the Vietnam War. My worst nightmare as a soldier, being in a tank on fire. Something beautiful and very scary and horrible about fire. And it's a common theme that I keep returning to and doing it again and again. These are little tiny, I think 5 by 3 by 5s. Oils on canvas that really intimate small paintings. And now we're back to artists with, again, it was a portrait that I took of somebody, a friend in her studio, but I added the nature scene behind her and all those creatures right next to her. And this is another imaginary scene. A nude on a blue chair with one of those wonderful creatures from the Biodiversity Library. Again, another artist friend in the studio in front of an abstract painting. And I added the hyena and the monkey behind her just because it makes it more interesting. coming to the last couple of pieces of artist friends and their paintings in the studios. And here we have 3 quick images that were ripped from my sketchbooks of art lovers, or people just looking at art and enjoying it, or being fascinated with it. And we all take pictures in front of art. I think somebody said that in the future we'll photograph everything and we'll remember nothing. But, I think we're done.
Well, why don't we ask people if they have any questions? And if they will put you on live. Can you unmute?
I just want to say bravo, Dudi.
Thank you.
Dudi, David.
I
It's
can hear you.
beautiful. It's incredible. It's amazing. I love your work.
Thank you.
You're
And,
amazing.
Excuse my mumbling. I'm not used to talk about my paintings.
No, you
But
did a beautiful job. I loved every minute.
Thank you.
Incredible. Bravo.
This is Laura, Dudi. Hi. Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. Can you say it again?
This is Laura. Oh, he doesn't see me? Oh,
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
anyway, I don't have questions. I am a literary person and I could talk about it a lot, but it's not worth it. The images just stand there and they're really haunting. And the elements that repeat all the time, the weird birds and the frozen faces of the women, and just very beautiful. I love your art. There's nothing smart I can say about it, except it's so interesting to watch it go one after other.
Yeah, we're losing you, but I heard you. Thank you very much.
I've never seen a lot of them together. I always see one here and at your house, but to see a large amount together, that's beautiful. It's very powerful and it doesn't stop being interesting. And the inventiveness of it and the caricature of it is just the colors of it, the allusions to other things, old-fashioned art, just really beautiful. So I'm very happy, and I don't know if I'm going to manage it, but I want to come into the gallery and look at them. I think it's a different sort of experience. I'll try and get Dana to come with me.
Oh, I don't know who's going next. This is Serena. And I don't really have a question other than I'm just so impressed. They're so fun and quirky and creative and some of the most exciting work I've seen in a long time. And thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Serena.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We love you.
No, they're wonderful.